Hey guys, so I purchased the Galaxy Tab S4 right around launch time, and I was hoping to get around at least a year or so before it was outdated. So I was a bit disappointed to see that Samsung released a new one, which is I think the Tab S5e, not that long after, maybe around half a year or so, because I picked this up I think last August 2018 I believe, and it's already been outdated. So I was kind of bummed out, but I try not to dwell on it too much because I've still been pretty happy with it. And surprisingly, they actually pushed out an update that included Android Pie and the new One UI. So I'm just going to cover some of the most obvious things that I've noticed with the update. Now, I don't really use the stock launcher that much. It's not really my style, but they've updated it, I believe. Again, I didn't use it too much, but it just is slightly different, just a little bit cleaner. I don't like how they limit the dock. It just feels kind of cramped. It's just crammed down here at the bottom. I just don't like how it looks aesthetically, so I don't use it, but it did get better. So the other thing, if we get here, is the notification shade. So now if you see, it is a bit more condensed. I'll actually disable this so you can see it, and I'll talk about that in a second. But it's a little bit more condensed from what I recall. It's not nearly as wide. Things are more rounded, the circular tiles now. It just looks a lot more cohesive. It matches more of everything else that they were going for. And another thing that I really like that they added was the ability to turn on night mode, which is essentially a dark theme. And I have been really wanting this for the longest time. I've gone through a bunch of hacky methods of installing, I think, overlays to kind of darken it up in the past. But that was a huge pain and really annoying to do every time there was any sort of update. So I'm really glad that I don't really have to mess around with that anymore, and I can just enable dark mode, and that's persistent throughout the settings and stuff like that. But mainly the notification bar, that's what you're gonna see a lot of the time. That would kind of blind you at night. So it's nice to not have to deal with that anymore. Now, the other thing, if you can see here, is the recents. Now, the recents, it just makes a lot more sense, what they're going for. It's a lot easier to see stuff in the past. You don't have to dig through the carousel or anything like that anymore. You can easily see a lot of applications go back to one that you had open previously, and it just looks a lot cleaner. It also shows you some recommendations of apps. I'm not really sure how it's getting these. These aren't ones that I open up very frequently, but they just kind of show up randomly. You saw some change down here. Now, if we go into Dex, I'm not sure if this is something that you guys actually use a lot. I've just found myself using it a lot more recently, because initially I was just really against it. It just seemed really stupid, but it's actually proven to be useful for applications that don't really like the tablet form factor. Then I can open up in here. So they changed the look of this just to match the overall aesthetics of the normal UI. But one thing that I really wish that they did that they really didn't do, it just looked like they just changed how this looked, and the title bar is slightly different. I think the icons are just barely different. But I really wish that they added snapping to the sides, kind of like you can do in Windows 10. If you snap it or drag it over to one side, it'll resize and take up that side of the screen, or if you do it to the top, it'll maximize it. That would help out so much, and it would make me use this a lot more, because now I'm having to just manually kind of drag it up and to the side and resize it, and then bring in something else and do the same. And it's just so time consuming, and it makes me not want to use this. But I still use it for those moments where I need to use an application that always wants to open up in portrait, so I can kind of force it to open up in a smaller portrait window. So let me close out of that. And Now, one thing that was a minor thing, which I wasn't sure at first, I thought I might have been going crazy, but before, when you disconnected the tablet from the keyboard dock, it would turn off the screen and basically just, do what you do when there's just a normal power button. But it was really, let me try to unlock this. It was really annoying because I would always do it accidentally, because if you have this keyboard stand, you probably know it only really sits at one angle. But if I have it at work or something, I might like try to push it against something just to give it a more upright position, depending on what I'm doing. And that might dislodge one of the pins slightly, and then it would just lock the screen, and I'd have to go through the process of unlocking it, which is kind of a pain. So it doesn't do that anymore, which I'm not sure if that's intentional or not, but I definitely really like that, just because like I said, it was just a huge pain. The performance seems about the same. I haven't really had any complaints. I didn't really have any complaints before. The only thing here that you notice, which if you've had it, is the memory limitation. I think it has 4 gigs, I want to say. So if I have a ton of stuff open in the background, then yes, it will give me some sort of issue. Or what will happen, let me clarify, is that if I have a ton of stuff open and I go back to a previous application, it might just have to reload it entirely just because it kicked it off of memory. I don't run into that too much, just because I normally just use this for medium consumption, but I do some light photo editing, some other minor things. So I do notice that occasionally, but not a huge deal. It would be nice if it had more RAM though. And let's go back into the recents. The navigation is different now. You might notice me doing stuff on the sides, but that's like a third-party application that I've been using for quite a while. It's called Edge Gestures. Well, the search is kind of slow, but anyway, that's what I've been using for all these side ones. But just because I'm used to that, I've been using that for, I don't know, a year or two at this point on all of my Android devices. So I've gotten used to that. But they implemented something kind of similar, which you could enable. So basically, it puts all of the navigation stuff at the bottom as swipes. So if I swipe up from the bottom, well, let me open something first. If I open something from the bottom, it would go to home. I switched the recent and back just because Samsung loves to do it backwards, which really annoys me. So this is recents, and then this is back. So you don't have to resort to any third-party stuff if you want to use the full screen. I'm just used to the other one, so I'm just gonna keep doing that, but it's nice that they've thought of that just so you don't have that wasted screen real estate. And let me see if I had anything else that stuck out to me. So we covered the launcher, the notification shade, the dark mode, which is nice, recents, DeX. Yep, I think that pretty much covers all of the stuff that was really noticeable to me. If you have any questions or at all, anything that I might have missed, please feel free to leave a comment down below, and I'll try to get to it once I have some time. All right. Sorry for the ramble, but it's been a pleasure. You guys have a good one.